What is your number? 197, 86, 7,320. My number this morning is 697. Now you're probably wondering what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the number of email messages in your inbox.
What?
Today I'm going to share with you 3 tips to clean out your email inbox. Raise your hand if you are overwhelmed by the amount of email you have in your email inbox.
No, nobody likes me.
The 3 tips I'm going to share today are: number 1, limiting incoming messages; number 2, setting up a system; and number 3, actually cleaning out your email inbox. The first tip is to start by limiting incoming messages. First, you need to block unwanted senders. You likely receive email from people that has nothing to do with you anymore. Maybe it's a previous job or a hobby you were once interested in. Perhaps it's a newsletter that you need to unsubscribe to. So to block unwanted senders, there are 2 tips that I recommend. The first one is to create a filter. If it's spam, if you select the message, you can create a filter, call it spam, and you'll never have to deal with that kind of email message again. If it's a newsletter, by law, all newsletters have to have an unsubscribe link. And usually it's right at the bottom of your email message of that newsletter. You just click unsubscribe or manage my subscriptions, and you're able to easily unsubscribe from those e-newsletters. You can also filter the low priority email, for example those newsletters, into an archive folder. So you don't have to look at it right away, but you can read it later if you wanted to access it. And then for those of us that are so overwhelmed by email that we don't know what to do, you might want to go to the nuclear option, which is to create a new email address. It's a little complicated because you'll need to do some interim forwarding, but I have seen it work very successfully in minimizing the amount of unwanted email you receive. The second tip in getting control of your email inbox is to set up your system. And there are 4 folders that I recommend, just 4. The first one is automatic, and that is your inbox. That is your folder that catches all email. So we'll move on to the next one. The second one might be a little new for you, and that is the archive folder. And the archive folder serves as a place for old messages to sit. With tools such as Gmail and even a lot of our Outlook servers, you don't necessarily have to delete email anymore because of space constraints. So there may be an email that you've read, you've dealt with, but you need to access it 6 months from now. Well, you will be safe and secure by having it in your archive folder. The third folder that I recommend is the Read Someday folder. And when you see an email message that is interesting to you, but you don't have time to read it right away, instead of leaving it in your inbox, I recommend dragging it into your Read Someday folder. That way you'll know you can read it later and it's there, but it's not nagging you every time you open up your email inbox. And the fourth folder that I recommend is a Waiting For folder. When you respond to someone and you're waiting for them to write back to you or on an answer, instead of leaving that message in your inbox where you have to search for it a few days later, you can drag it into your Waiting For folder and just look over there and say, oh, that's a message that I'm still looking for a response, and you can send a follow-up. Now that you have limited incoming unwanted messages and set up your system using the 4-folder system that I recommend, it's time to process your email. First action you should take in processing your email is setting aside some time, closing the door, turning off your cell phone. Set some time aside to process your email. For me, looking at my 697 messages waiting on my phone right now, I would need to close my door and actually block off a good hour to process all of those emails. So close the door and have some focused time. Start by opening your email inbox. Change the view so you can see as many messages as possible. So you might have an option where you can say View All. So have all of them open and select all of them. Depending on if you use Gmail or Outlook or another program, the method of selecting all might be different. Once you have them all selected, visually scan through your inbox and unselect for Outlook, and in Gmail, star all of the messages that look important, something that you need to deal with. So select all and then only star the important ones. Once you've done that, you can take your entire email inbox, all 697 messages, and drag them all into the archive folder. And I happen to use Gmail, and when I do that, all the ones that I've starred are in two places. They're actually in the archive folder, but they're also in the stars tab or the stars label. So you archive all the unimportant, and then you deal with the stars. Or for Outlook users, you deal with all the messages that are remaining in your inbox. And there are 4 short steps that I recommend that you follow in processing your email. The first one is to deal with that message. Just take care of it right away. If it takes 2 minutes or less, respond, forward, whatever you need to do, but get it out of your inbox. If it's unimportant, go ahead and archive it or delete it. Get rid of it if you don't need it. The third step would be delegating. If you can somehow get someone else to take care of it, forward it to them and say, can you take care of this? And then that way, it's off your plate. And the 4th step in processing your email is to defer. If you have a long email message that's going to take time to respond to, you're going to need to schedule that time. So perhaps it's a carefully worded email to a superior or in some sort of relationship. Take some time to actually craft that email. So my challenge to you in closing is to think about the number of email messages you have today. Write down that number somewhere. And the next time we meet in 2 weeks from now, my challenge is for you to have 10 or less email messages following the system that I recommended today. Thank you.